Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Marie Wade, and I will be reading from Otherwise Essays, which is a finalist for the 2023 Big Other Nonfiction Book Prize. Thank you to Big Other and to John Mazzara for this opportunity. I'm going to read a selection from an essay called Still Life with Guns for Dr. James Holloway. The first time they fired a gun at a track meet, I dropped my knees. I was 7. I had bony knees. Most likely they were crusted with scabs from bike rides and tree climbs gone awry. Still, I dropped to my knees instead of sprinting the 50-yard dash. I wore my black nylon shorts and my bright blue shirt that read West Seattle Striders in shiny letters, but I could not stride. Not then. I brought shame on my team as I buckled down on my knees, hands over my ears. The coach was screaming from the sidelines, but I didn't care. I heard on your mark. I heard get set. I was waiting for go. No one said go. No one ever mentioned a gun. Until the late 1950s, teen sleuth Nancy Drew was allowed to borrow her father's car and his gun. I loved these books late into the 1980s, but this fact seemed to me the very essence of permissive parenting. Once Nancy Drew was hit with the blunt end of a revolver, she dropped to the floor, unconscious. Still, I thought, how much better than being shot. My parents did not keep guns. No one in our suburban neighborhood had been the victim of violent crime. We lived in a safe place, by all accounts. I had no reason to believe otherwise. And yet, for many years, I dreamed that a man came to our door and rang the bell. We could see his shadow through the frosted glass. When we didn't answer, he pelted the lock with bullets. The door fell down. Then he stood in the hallway, backlit by a street lamp. He wore a wool cap stretched over his face. He was tall and lean with clean jeans and gloves. He pointed the gun at my father, my mother, and me. He shot us one by one. Once on Silver Spoons, Ricky's grandfather took him hunting. This was 1984, which means I was too young to be watching. Maybe I saw a rerun. I still remember the deer. Ricky doesn't want to kill him. A strong buck with antlers as intricate as the cat's cradle game we played with yarn. Someone takes the yarn from someone else's fingers. You have to be careful so everything doesn't collapse. The deer collapses on the hard ground. For years, I see him on his buckled legs, the hole in his side, the blood. Once my father gave me a cap gun. He said it reminded him of when he was a boy in Montana playing cowboys and Indians. That was the 1940s. They didn't know any better then. The gun he gave me was black and silver with a long, slender barrel. It came with a jeweled holster for cowgirls and a pack of coiled red paper called caps. My father loaded the paper into the gun and told me to fire. It doesn't matter where. You can't hurt anything. Then he reconsidered. Well, don't point it at your face. I clicked the trigger and smelled smoke. I liked the smell, but not the feel of the trigger under my finger. Mostly, the gun stayed in the holster after that. If you have the dream again, my father said, exhausted, slumped against the side of my bed, we will have to stop reading Nancy Drew. It's putting ideas in your head. I did have the dream again, so I continued reading Nancy Drew in secret. I used to have water guns in all different colors. My friends and I shot at each other in the swimming pool and running through the sprinklers. Someone we knew even had a super soaker. We squealed and shouted, stop, but we didn't mean it. We were trigger happy. We made shooting noises. We cast great arcs of water across the lawn. Gotcha, gotcha, we cried. But no one ever fell down or writhed on the ground. No one ever pretended to be dead. My parents sat me down and explained that I was not allowed to take the toy gun I didn't play with outside of our backyard. There had been a shooting in the city, a real one. A little boy was waving a toy gun in an alley after dark. A policeman called out for whoever was there to drop his weapon and put his hands in the air. I was not even allowed outside after dark. I didn't even know where I would find an alley. The boy thought they were playing a game. He kept waving the gun the way you might wave one of those toys you get at the circus. Maybe it was one of those toys, a Ringling Brothers sparkling ray gun, let's say. The boy never put it down, and the policeman shot him dead. Later, I can't be sure if I dreamed this or not, the policeman apologized to the dead boy's family on television. Parents were told to talk to their children about guns. My parents only repeated what they had already said. In The Sound of Music, Liesel's boyfriend Rolf pulls a gun on Liesel's father, Captain Von Trapp. I am terrified every time this happens. You'll never be one of them, the captain says, taking the gun from Rolf's hand. How does he know Rolf won't pull the trigger? The very next moment, Rolf blows his whistle, exposes them all. More troubling still, how could Liesel have danced with this boy, kissed him by lightning glow in her family's gazebo? How could the same hands that held her so gently have also held that gun? Once I went home with Jamie after school. Her father worked nights and slept during the day. We had to be quiet, she told me over and over, even though I could hear the television blaring behind the bedroom door. Everything in Jamie's house was very white and very clean, but there was a small dark hole in the wall. I asked her about it. She said her father got angry and fired his BB gun indoors. The next time I came over, a picture hung on that wall. At recess one day, we told each other the worst ways to die. Someone was afraid of drowning. Someone was afraid of burning alive. Someone was afraid of falling from the top of a skyscraper. No one was afraid of sharks or freezing to death or zombies. These weren't popular ways to go in 1989. I'm afraid of being shot, I said. The boys told me I could survive a flesh wound, no problem. I clarified, I'm afraid of being shot to death. My voice quivered as I said it. Once my grandmother sent me to the cellar for something, or maybe she didn't. Maybe I was nosing around where I didn't belong, just like I always did. I opened the door and felt a draft rising from under the house. I reached for the frayed string and tugged it twice before the bare bulb over the stairs clicked on. Canning supplies and carpentry tools, that's all anyone said the cellar was good for. I took a couple of steps down, then froze mid-stair. Leaning against the wall was a rifle, old and unpolished. From a certain angle, you could mistake it for a cane. I did not touch the gun, but studied it in the wan light, sizing it up like a schoolyard bully. How I wanted to kick it, to throw it down, but in the end, I left it in darkness. Once at a garage sale, I was trying to help my mother make a good find. We got there early to rifle through the boxes. She said it like the word wasn't loaded. Rifle through. We did this a lot. We rifled. Usually there were only a few lockets without chains, or a set of chipped teacups, or a cloth pouch full of silver dollars. But this time I opened a shoebox full of guns. They were pistols, I guess, like those I had seen on Perry Mason. At first, I thought they must be the same as my little cap gun, but when I lifted one out of the box, it was heavy and oily. My wrist bent in an unnatural way. Someone was just selling guns on his front lawn. Anyone could come and buy one. I put the lid back on the box, but all day I felt the slick heft in my hand and wished I could go back and unfeel it.